Okay, before we start with today's video, I think it's important for me to give a bit of a content warning. No, not because of the unlifing yourself topic. We aren't really going to be going into that in anything but a superficial way. And I think if you clicked on the video with a title using the words I likely used, you are probably going to be fine. The content warning is because the arguments being made are really f***ing stupid.
Let's look at the ideas of purpose, meaning, and life.
I think the meaning of life is not to play overly loud goddamn piano music that drowns out the things you're trying to say. Although then again, they are the things you are trying to say, so maybe that's a good thing. Creation basics? Oh right, so like all of it, since it is the most basic bitch explanation of the origins of life and the universe, etc. Because why have deep explanations that help us truly understand how things work, when you can just say God did it and then get back to jerking off over your invisible boyfriend Jesus all day? More like creation basic bitches, am I right?
Welcome to Creation Basics, where our goal is to make God's creation part of your everyday conversation.
Really? Really? Every day? Fucking hell, way to make already tedious people even worse. To the point where they just can't stop banging on about their pet, unprovable, untestable hypothesis all the freaking time. I mean, most topics have a limit to how often you could talk about them before running out of new and/or interesting things to say. But there's not even enough to it that you wouldn't start repeating yourself after like a week tops. Basically immediately.
Now today's question, could belief in evolution be linked to youth suicide?
Is a really fucking dumb one, because evolution is simply a fact about the universe and how the diversity of life came to be. The very notion that an explanation as to where all the different animals came from could in any meaningful way cause people to want to end their lives is so absolutely ridiculous that only an utter moron could come up with it. So par for the course when it comes to creationist discussions.
I mean, this is a huge problem in our culture today, and sadly a lot of young people know of someone in their school or community that's killed themselves recently.
And we wanted to take those tragic losses of life and really make it about pushing pseudo-scientific and pseudo-intellectual worldviews because of what wonderful people we are. Seriously, and I in no way want you to misunderstand me when I say this, but you for being so utterly devoid of basic compassion that you would use such a thing in order to push your stupid, just plain wrong agenda.
And authorities recognize this, but a lot of times they don't really have a lot to offer in terms of why this is happening or what to do about it. And of course, these are very complicated issues.
Very complicated issues that we on Cretin Basics are clearly more than qualified to boil down to very simplistic and asinine explanations that allow us to talk shit about an idea that we don't like, even though it's, in any meaningful sense, completely unrelated to the topic at hand, right? That's what he's going to say next, yeah?
Who knows exactly why a young person decides life isn't worth living?
You do, apparently, because you have the question mark of doom on your title. The question mark that means, to the one who placed it there, an unequivocal wink, nudged yes, and to everyone else means an absolute no, because we know what you're up to, you disingenuous pricks.
However, it is interesting to note when youth suicide rates began to increase. Now, even though I'm a Canadian, I'm using some US stats here.
Why do the US stats back up your claim better and the Canadian ones do not? I hope that isn't the case, because picking cherries is something you should do for sustenance, not to make your argument sound stronger than it isn't. And as we all know, creationists would never partake in such underhanded, dishonest tactics, would they?
But they are pretty comparable worldwide in Western countries, but...
Sure, okay, I'll take your word for it. Although that doesn't mean what you're about to say makes any sense anyway. So even if you were cheating, I would allow it. Because you need all the help you can get. Not that you deserve any, but I am just such a nice guy.
Statistics in the US have shown that suicide rates among youth were pretty stable between 1946 and 62. However...
What? Why did you pick such a specific set of years, and such a tiny sample size at that? It's like 16 years. I don't know if you know this, but there was like an infinity that happened beforehand. What were they like before that? And let me guess, you aren't going to give the actual numbers. That would be too useful. And okay, fair enough, you are a creaty boy, so you think that there was less time before that, but it would still be well in excess of 5,000 years. Don't you have any more data? Oh right, Creationist. They don't really do accurate or specific data. I forgot.
From 63 to 92, they increased over 10.5% a year.
You see, there's a reason I think he's using percentages rather than any solid numbers. Because what does that actually mean? Well, after looking how they track the statistics, it means about 1 to 2 more per 100,000. Now, that's not to downplay that it's still not good that it happened, but in terms of the actual per capita percentage increase that he wants you to think it is, it's actually like 0.002% increase, I think, if I'm not fucking up my maths. And even if I'm not, it's still definitely lower than the a lot more scary sounding 10%. And to be frank, I'm pretty sure you did that on purpose. And again, I'm not downplaying that any increase is bad. But to act like it's way bigger than it is and people are doing it left and right is not helping anyone and is, well, disingenuous at best. Which should be the slogan for creationists everywhere.
Now, these rates have decreased in recent years but remain far above their pre-60s levels, and it should be pointed out that it was precisely in the early 60s that state-mandated and state-mandated school prayer, Bible reading, was taken out of school.
What the f*** has that got to do with evolution being a fact? I'm pretty sure sweet to the f*** all, and certainly has little to nothing to do with suicide rates. Schools are for education, not religious indoctrination. Also, what effect did that have on actual numbers of Christians in general? Because I think most people become and stay religious based more on their families, rather than whether or not they pray or read the Bible in fucking school. Again, it's weird that you don't provide those numbers.
And it was during this time period as well that the teaching of evolutionary theory grew dramatically.
Schools started teaching children facts about how the universe works. The bastards! Next they'll be teaching them how to do basic mathematics and how to read and write. Can't have that. If they become educated and know how to do things, that'll really push them away from believing in fucking creationism. They should be this guy, who doesn't know shit all about anything.
So the Soviet spacecraft Sputnik 1.
I'm sorry, did I just have a fucking stroke? I mean, I've heard a lot of non sequiturs in my time, but that was the kind of leap that you would have to do from, well, funnily enough, by jumping from a spacecraft in order to cover that kind of sheer distance. The fuck is going on?
The first artificial satellite, launched in '57, kind of launched the new space race. And after the success of Sputnik, the US authorities decided to make science education a priority.
Right, okay, fair enough. He did actually have a point. I mean, it's not a very good one, but it's a point nonetheless. The US apparently attempted to make its education system better. Well, obviously they failed since people like you are still happening all the fucking time. And yes, I know he's Kenyadan, but the point still stands. Perhaps they should try again and this time, actually follow through so less of you fucking travesties happen.
Because they thought, well, the Soviets have beat us into space because of their superior science.
When what they should have done is prayed harder. I mean, do you think those astronauts are praying to science that they don't randomly explode for no reason? No, it's God who makes that happen either way. He really does hate it when people try to get to his sky house. So, what's science even good for anyway, really?
Now, it wasn't really true because the US simply wasn't really focusing on that. And when they buckled down, they put a man on the moon 12 years later, but...
Okay, so what? That doesn't mean focusing on science education was a bad thing. And I'm sure there was at least a little copying of homework, so to speak. But yeah, just because you can put a man on the moon today doesn't mean you should just give up all pursuits and not bother educating your populace for tomorrow, you fucking Luddite.
Anyway, before this event, US textbooks didn't have a lot of teaching about the story of evolution. But from this point on,
evolution, that thing that has anything to do with the fucking space race. See, it's still unrelated, regardless to him having anything even approaching that point thing I was talking about. Seriously, I don't know why they do it. Alright, I do, I just wish they fucking wouldn't, because it's super annoying.
Evolution was taught more and more exclusively as the explanation of life's origins.
No, it fucking isn't, or wasn't, or whatever, and any school that did that was it up almost as badly as you lot do. Evolution has absolutely nothing to do with the origin of life. That's what we call abiogenesis. Evolution, exclusively, describes the diversity of life we see. Will you people ever wrap your tiny little fucking brains around that concept? You must have been told infinity plus 1 times, and yet you refuse to actually let it stick around in your head. And it's not like there isn't plenty of room in there, considering how empty it otherwise is.
Now, by the way, the type of science that produces rockets have nothing to do with evolutionary storytelling, which is basically a philosophy about the origin of life without God.
Oh, please do, unironically, right off into space. Evolution is not a philosophy, and it was never discovered in order to disprove God, or any other such asinine bullshit. It is simply a fact that was discovered, and then people have spent huge amounts of time and resources understanding it. The fact that you think it's just there to replace your bullshit goes to show how little you do understand it. That, or you're just lying about it, which frankly would not surprise me.
As a matter of fact, the leader of the Apollo program, Wernher von Braun, was a creationist.
If true, okay, so fucking what? You said it yourself. Rocket surgery doesn't have anything to do with evolution. So a rocket science guy could absolutely not understand the science behind the diversity of life and still be a completely competent rocket boy. That's the thing about people. They can be the smartest brainer in the world on one topic and a total moron on another. I don't think that dichotomy is shown more strongly than the idea of a creationist rocket science fella. I really don't think any of this proves what you think it proves, mate.
But anyway, the point is...
Oh my god, you have another point? What kind of creationist are you? We all know that you guys don't really have more than 1 point. You just say things out of your idiot holes and hope that other idiots think they are worthwhile things and not completely idiotic gibberish, which is in fact the thing that they always are.
The explanation of origins in public schools was swapped from one model to a completely different model within a very short period of time, and these models completely contradict one another.
I seriously doubt they weren't teaching evolution before that, and just because a school taught the Bible in any sense, that sure as shit doesn't mean that they were necessarily fucking creationists. In fact, if they were swapped so easily, I seriously doubt that they were. Also, creationism isn't a model. It doesn't model anything. It's just, this book said God did it, and I'm too stupid to bother learning anything different.
I mean, it's very hard to believe what the Bible says about origins.
Hey, you said it, not me, buddy. But only because that's not how I would say it. Because I don't think it's hard to believe what the Bible says about origins. I think it's fucking impossible to believe because it's so goddamn stupid. That's why I'm always so baffled at people like you who think it's literally true. You are like a puzzle wrapped in an enigma, all bundled up in a moron.
If you believe in the, evolutionary history is true.
You don't have to believe it. It is true. And it's less a history and more of a evidence that is real and demonstrates that evolution is a thing that happened. And you can believe your nonsensical fairy tale version of events as much as you want, but that doesn't change the fact that it is gibberitic nonsense, and that the only reason you believe it is because someone once told you about it and convinced you it was the only real explanation. But your inability to parse fact from fiction is again irrelevant to what actually happened, end of story.
As a matter of fact, it's kind of hard to believe in two more opposing accounts of history than creation and evolution.
See, that's the thing. The problem that you have, and a non-stupid Crimsbian doesn't, is that you, for reasons beyond me, don't understand that the Bible was written by people. It's a story designed to impart a certain set of values, and not an actual account of how anything happened. The smart theist knows that if there is a God, the Bible is man's attempt to understand it from a certain perspective, and any literal interpretation is foolhardy at best. And they certainly wouldn't be stupid enough to try and blame natural phenomena for terrible things that happen to people, like the absolute morons you and yours are.
Now, today, secular schools and universities continue to answer life's three big questions, philosophical questions. Where do we come from? What's the meaning of life? And what happens when you die?
They answer those questions? Aside from the first one, they kinda don't. Not in the sciences anyway, because those are actually philosophical. We don't know if anything beyond the beyond happens after we die. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but we certainly have no way to find out. To be fair, the best guess is probably nothing. And the meaning of life is basically the same. We have no way to tell what ideas are true in that regard, so the most likely guess, as of now, would be there isn't one. In a fact kind of way. And that's okay. Most people find their own meaning. Or they kind of don't care.
Translated through a naturalistic evolutionary view. I mean, where do we come from? It was a fluke.
Wrong. Look at you not actually understanding what the origins of life are. It's a fluke the same way that firing an infinite machine gun at a can on the other side of a field and one or more of the shots hitting is a fluke. 'Cause it's not. It's all but inevitable. Only someone who doesn't understand what we know about evolution would call any of it a fucking fluke.
What's the meaning of life? It's a farce. What happens when you die? You're fodder. Fluke, farce, and fodder.
I think fluke, farce, and fodder would make for a great creationist law firm. You would for sure know what you're getting with them anyway, just from the name alone.
So although a complex topic, suicide is often linked to people that believe there's no meaning and purpose in their lives. And millions of students are being taught exactly that. There's no meaning and purpose to life.
Right, that aside, evolution makes zero fucking claims as to whether life or whatever has meaning. All evolution is an observable thing that happens. Anything else in that regard is up for debate. There could be capital M meaning in the universe as a fact, with evolution remaining true. Regardless of how one might feel about evolution being true, it doesn't change the fact that it is. But pretending that it has anything to do with mental health problems in any meaningful way is just another way for creationists to show they have no interest in being right, only in making science look bad as dishonestly as possible. So f*** you.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. No, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the